Wait a minute.
You're on. Oh. You're on.
Good morning. It's been a while since we've done this from the house. Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast, or otherwise known as Bobby and Theresa's house. I am Reverend Theresa Feeberts, Senior Minister here at the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. And I guess I've never been prouder to be able to use that title than I am today. And I know that you are a divine light. I'm really grateful for each one of you that are able to tune in right now. I know many of our folks still don't have electricity, don't have internet, have really bad cell service, which I'm still dealing with a little bit. And but for those of you that are with us, thank you. And I know there'll be many that'll tune in later once they get all charged up. Together, you know, I haven't started that way in a long time. I am, you are, but together we're really powerful. Together we are creating a world that works for everyone. And I believe that. I really deeply believe that. I am filled with lots of emotion this morning. Lots of emotion right now, lots of feelings. And I would imagine that each one of you are as well. And if you are tuning in to this program and you are unfamiliar with who we are and where we are, I want to give a little background. We are located in Sarasota, Florida. My home right here is 9 miles from CSLCC, where Hurricane Milton made landfall. We spent an hour in the eye of the hurricane on Wednesday evening. Cultural Coast of Florida, which is in our name, the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. Cultural Coast of Florida is the area from Anna Maria Island south to Inglewood. Anna Maria and Inglewood, as I understand it, are pretty devastated. In some areas, really non-existent. A lot of the beach was gone, moved to the other side of the road, even in a lot of locations. Landmarks that we love dearly are no longer there. The rod and reel pier is gone. This here is a painting that my mother did, and this is the starfish fish camp up at Cortez Village. Cortez Village is demolished. This building went down the water, it's gone. We're experiencing extreme weather. And I have been here, moved to CSLCC when I was 16 years old in 1977. Before that, I lived on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I am very, very familiar with hurricanes. I am very, very familiar with the process of a hurricane, the fear that can come up with it, the aftermath of it, riding it out. I have a lot of experience with that. But what I don't have a lot of experience with, and none of us do, is the fact that August 5th, we had an unprecedented flood in areas of our town that we have never experienced before. In areas of the town that are not flood zones, in areas of the town that are directly north of where I stand right here, not in an evacuation zone, not in a flood zone, and every house, but I think save 9 in a subdivision were flooded. None of us have experienced that here. And then September 26th, we had Hurricane Helene. Unprecedented, massive storm that devastated from the entire east coast of Florida all the way up through North Carolina, Tennessee, surrounding areas. They'll never look the same. They'll never look the same. And then less than 2 weeks later, we get a direct hit from a Category 3 hurricane that has not happened, that we've had a direct hit since 1853 I think, or 1848. Anyway, a very long time. Very long time. So while I have experience with this, I don't. Because this really is unprecedented, what we're going through. And I want us to really understand that. If you haven't already tuned into that for yourself, I'm going to push the button this morning. Because I feel that it's very important for us to feel all the feels. For us to really recognize what's going on in, as, and around us. That's where we're going to be this morning. I want to thank our Board of Trustees. I want to thank our President, Jennifer Johnston, who's sitting here in my living room. Because on Tuesday evening, our board met and made the decision to cancel our in-person gathering downtown because we didn't know what we would be facing this morning. And I'm so glad that we did. I received an email, an update email from our landlord, the Bay, and they let me know that there had been a large limb off of that beautiful grand oak tree, that beautiful mother oak tree in the front of our building, lost a limb and it fell on the roof. And it was a dangerous situation. Well, we already knew we weren't going to be there this morning. And then I received a picture just now from our beloved Rev G, who lives across the street, with an aerial shot of the crane that arrived this morning to lift the branches off the roof. So I'm glad we're here. Thank you, Jennifer, for your foresight and your leadership. I have a great respect for Mother Nature, great respect for nature, every aspect of it, for its power, for its brilliance, for its creativity, for its wisdom and intelligence. And I'm grateful that our electricity came on Friday night so we could love stream from here this morning. So as I said, I want us to begin with all the feels, whatever they are for you. I would imagine some of us are still feeling fear. We're still feeling fear because we don't know what's next. We don't know maybe how we're going to get a new car or how the roof's going to get replaced or when they're going to take the tree off the roof, those kinds of things. So we're in a state of continual anxiety right now, many of us. We have great sadness. When I heard the report Wednesday evening, when we're sitting in the darkness in the living room, that it had made landfall on CSLCC, I sobbed. My first Florida home. That sadness will stay with me for a while, I think. But I have great gratitude. I feel so blessed. I feel that all the prayer work that was going on around the world for us here, and for us here, all the visualizing, all the spiritual practice that we had in play, I do believe it helped. I honestly believed it helped. Can I explain to you? Can I calculate it all out? No, I cannot. But it's another deep feeling that I have, one that really is lifting me right now. So whatever it is, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the physical pain in your body because you've been working a little harder than maybe you normally do, I want you to feel in that. And we're going to have the help of Emily Frost. Emily and Matthew left town. They evacuated. They're in a very low-lying, heavily wooded piece of property in Nokomis. And they did suffer quite a bit of damage on their property, but we think the home is fine. They haven't seen it yet, but they're driving home from Alabama today. So with her permission, we're using some previous performances from her. And Bobby and I went through them last night and picked some that we thought would fit right in beautifully. So what I'm going to ask you to do is this first one is a vocal performance of hers using keyboard. It's very beautiful and artistically genius. It's brilliant and it's meditative. So I want you to allow all those feelings to come up and be with Emily, her voice, her music, as we know Just as there is great energy and power in the universe, in nature, in hurricanes, there's great power. There's great love. There is an urge to express and to live life freely and fully within myself, within each one of us. And it is that invisible power within that continues to guide and guard every step each one of us make as we heal, as we move through this experience in unity together, recognizing that there's only one thing ever happening. And so it is. Emily.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Johnston, Chair of your Board of Trustees. It is good to be with you this morning. We can stay in that place of vulnerability and openness to receive as we hear today's reading from Emma Curtis Hopkins. You are a perfect creation of the living God, spiritual, harmonious, fearless, free. You reflect all the universe of good. From every direction, everywhere, come words of truth, making you know that you are free, wise, and happy. You are satisfied with the world in which you live. You show forth to the world health, wisdom, peace. You show perfect health in every part of your being. You are fearless, free, strong, wise, and able to do everything that belongs to you to do each day. God works through you to will and to do that which ought to be done by you. You are a living demonstration of the power of truth to set free into health and strength for living service to the world. You acknowledge to the world that you are whole. You acknowledge to yourself that you are well and alive through and through. God is your life, health, strength, and support forever. And God pronounced the works of God's hands good, and so you are good. All is good, and so it is.
Thank you, Jennifer. You know, part of our teaching is, as Jennifer read, it's the spiritual, it's the wisdom that runs through all religions. And part of it is science. Part of it is psychology, quantum physics, philosophy. I love all of them, every aspect. I find at times that feel stressful, that the psychology part is what I'm sometimes most comfortable with, or sometimes where I do find a lot of solace for myself, an understanding of what is commonplace, because I don't want to call it normal, but what is commonplace for us to experience at times of stress, so that we kind of diffuse the idea that there's something wrong with us. Because as Jennifer just told us, from a spiritual aspect, there could never be anything wrong with us, right? Right. So hurricanes are traumatic, and it's a thing. It's a real thing. Hurricane trauma, extreme weather trauma. It's a real thing. And I don't want us to diminish that. I want us to recognize that. I find comfort in knowing that the stress that we are experiencing is common among people. So it's a cause of post-traumatic symptoms. Can be post-traumatic disorder as well. So we want to be gentle with ourselves. It's a time to be gentle with ourselves and to be gentle with each other, and aware, I think, of the potential for this to trigger mental health issues within us or other people that we're close with, that we may be interacting with, and we're not understanding why they're behaving in a way that they are. So we want to have a sensitivity to that. So that's the first part I want to talk about this morning, is that stress, that anger, that fear, that depression that would be commonplace for us right now. And Physical stressors only compound that. It is hot in Florida, right? And when we don't have electricity, we don't have air conditioning, that physical discomfort, the fact that we're probably not sleeping well, all that adds to the mental distress that we're also feeling. So we don't want to minimize that. We want to be able to recognize that. Many people are, I know certainly in North Carolina, experienced a lack of food, being able to get to resources or have resources come to them. Most of our areas here are not that extreme as what they experienced in North Carolina. So I want to be aware of, make note of that and be aware of that. But another stressor that we have for a lot of people is the lack of news. Now, I still have not seen news reports of the devastation here. I have not seen it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little minute. I saw an article online by Houston's Methodist Medicine Journal, and I guess they have a hospital out there as well. And they were talking about how hypervigilance, being like really on task and not being able to settle down or slow down or just be, so that we can be in a place of awareness. You know, we spent all last month exercising or practicing all those different meditative ways of being. Breath work, visualizations, all of that, right? Go back to that if you need to, please. Because that inability to settle ourselves down could also be affecting many of us right now. And it makes it more difficult for us to have those practices. So I'm going to remind you now, and I'm going to remind you again, to reach out if you can to, we have 3 ministers now on staff, or in our community, and we have practitioners and many people that you can reach out to. So if you need somebody to just breathe with you, please call. As I said a minute ago, hurricanes are very, very powerful. It's a lot of energy. It's very powerful. And at that time, we can feel a loss of control, a sense of helplessness or hopelessness even. One person yesterday, so we've been out, a group of us, Bobby and I went by ourselves one day, and I know people have been out helping their neighbors. And we had one person in our community say yesterday that he was so grateful. We were going around a circle talking about our gratitudes. And he said he was so grateful for the humility that allowed him to ask for help. That was so powerful to me to hear. It was really powerful. Ask for help. Please ask for help. So there's strategies, and asking for help is part of a coping strategy to get us safely, successfully through times like this, through these kinds of traumatic experiences. One is to be prepared in advance. Now, I know we're on the other side of this storm, but there may be other storms coming. There may be other kind of personal storms in your life. To be prepared for those is really well advised and helpful. So having an emergency plan, knowing if you're going to shelter in place or if you're going to evacuate, and letting other people know. That's why the board and I sent out the email on Wednesday saying, please tell us where you are. Just a simple button to push and say, and I can't tell you, I read them all, and I can't tell you how grateful I was. And with each email I got, I was able to say, oh, okay, good. Pat and Charles are here. You know, I knew where everybody was going to be, at least those who responded, which was, I want to tell you, a very small portion of our membership, and the extension of our membership, our friends. A very small portion responded and let us know. And I'm going to touch on that too. But part of our preparation is getting our supplies together, having the food, having water, all of those types of things, having a radio to get news. We learned after Helene from my sister. Now, I told you I've gone through a lot of these. And I always make sure that I have water on the counters and that kind of thing. My sister froze a bunch of containers, Tupperware containers full of water. And then a neighbor told me, oh, she does a bunch of bottles. So we did that this time. It was fabulous. It helped the refrigerator so much. So just that little bit of connecting with other people, sharing, oh, well, you know, I'm a little concerned, I won't have food. These ideas that we can share, even something that would seem so benign or minor, was really helpful to Bobby and I, and how we were able to manage through those several days without electricity. Professional advice at times of stress is always consistent in their plea to reach out to other people for support, to not isolate yourself. That we heard this over and over again, how important community was during COVID. And we found how important that was. It's a way that we actually maintain healthy mind, body, spirit, mental health, emotional health, all of that. And then another thing that will minimize our risks when we're in a stressor is if we remind ourselves and stand strong on our foundation of beliefs. So another person that we spoke to, right after, pretty soon after the storm, the next morning, we visited because she's right here in our neighborhood. And she had two friends staying over with her that are not familiar with the science mind philosophy or way of living, right? But they witnessed in her a demeanor and an attitude and a positivity that they appreciated, that they were recognizing and asking her, well, how do you do that? You know, well, it's her way of thinking. It's her way of being. And it was really helpful for her, as well as her two guests in her home that were staying safe at her place. So our affirmations, our treatments, you know, that's why we send out those little prayers before a storm, so that you have something, print it out, repeat them, grab one of your books that means something to you. But utilize that, continue to remind yourself of the foundation upon which you are firmly planted, right? And then here's another thing I want to remind us. There's no good that comes from us measuring ourselves against other people, other people's loss, other people's grief, other people's ability to seemingly rise above. All of those things. Whose loss is more valid? Whose fear is more valid? Quite frankly, there is no validity in that. As a painful way of thinking and looking at the world, we know that we have unique and individual experiences because we are unique in individual expressions. So our experiences are unique. And that's right. That's the way it is. And yet, we know that we are a union, a unity. We are we are the diverse expression of the one. It has multiplied and diversified itself in form. Yet there is that common unity amongst us. Well, when we engage in judging ourselves, judging other people, you know, North Carolina experienced devastation that will take a long time to recover from. And I want to tell you, that's a great loss for me as well. I told you I moved here to Siesta Key when I was 16 years old. I started visiting the mountains of North Carolina when I was a child with my grandparents, camping in those mountains. And then I went to college there. Before that, my father had a job opportunity and we went there to look at Sapphire Valley, and Dad ended up coming to Siesta Key instead. I have deep roots there. I have my beloved Reverend Dr. Susie Shadle at the CSL Asheville, who has been a huge part of my life as a minister and becoming a minister. And I've heard from Susie as I was desperately trying to reach out to her when Helene had really ravaged her town and her community. And never once would Susie and I try to compare. There's great love, there's great compassion, and there's great support being shared. And it's so life-giving and so life-affirming to be in that space. And yet I've heard others say, oh, well, I have no right to feel bad. And then we add guilt on top of, because maybe I didn't have a loss in my house. And then we add guilt on top. Again, I want to remind us that these are traumatic experiences that we go through. And we don't have to have lost an arm to suffer. We don't have to have lost our entire house to feel suffering. And it's appropriate to feel that way. And I would invite you to not feel guilty about any of that. This is the human condition. It's our human experience. So I want us to ground again with Emily and a song about just exactly that, an original song of hers called June.
This next song of mine is called June, and this song is about literally grounding yourself to the floor, meaning after suffering, a major loss, maybe you've been here before, where you're just so emotional, you feel so much pain, you're in so much pain that you just have to get on the ground. I've definitely had a couple of those moments. And when I was writing this song, I didn't really know where the song was going to go, but all of a sudden these words just came out. The ground, it stays, and the pillow is waiting. And what that meant to me was that, the ground is always going to be there for me. It's something that I can depend on. So when everything feels really out of control in my life, like I can't control things slipping away or whatever, the ground is there. So I can lie on it, feels good. And at the end of the song, I say, only in her body, it's the only place to be. And I truly believe that for true healing, you have to go inwards into your body. It's the only place to really be. So here is June. Slowly in her body, she is raising her head. Don't be so lonely, and don't sleep all day. But the ground, it stays, and her pillow is waiting. Lately, stays, and her pillow is waiting. Nobody stays, do they? But the ground it stays, and her pillow is waiting. Only in her body, it's the only place to be.
It was a real joy last night to be able to go through a lot of the recordings that we had of Emily's and find the songs that we felt really fit, and they're all so beautiful. That was just gorgeous, and that's what I'm trying to say. We need to feel in our bodies, and we need to ground our bodies. And one way I believe that we can feel more grounded is by making meaning of the experiences that we have. So I've titled today's message, Milton, Making Meanings. M&M's. Making meanings. You know, we've had 3 days now of helping people, raking with our neighbors, helping them with things around their houses, moving limbs off of their driveways and that kind of thing. And that for me is meaning making. That for me is meaning making. Because otherwise, what are we doing? You know, we know in this teaching that if we are not intentional with our thoughts, we can slip into the unconscious, you know, the collective unconsciousness, the race belief that Ernest Holmes called. We fall into what everybody's doing. So we can see love and connection, opportunities to help and reach out, or we can see fighting at gas stations, you know, over gas. We can choose what we focus on and where we're going to put our attention. And for me, that is meaning making out of something that I had no control really over, the weather, right? But I always have control over where my doubts and fears, where they go, what I do with them. And so instead, I can listen to the stories, and I choose to listen to as many stories as I can right now about people opening their homes to other people. My daughter is on a social thread with people in Tampa and South Tampa, the community where she lives. And it's unbelievable. You know, people saying, I have charging stations and coffee on my porch. It's open 7 to 7. Come help yourself. I'm going to get pizza. Let me know. I'll deliver it to your door on my way back to my house. One incredible family had 2 spare bedrooms and said, if you have an infant child in your home and no electricity, come to our house and stay for free. People opening their homes to strangers. That's where I want my attention to go. And that's what's meaning making for me and for all of us. We get to choose that. Are you humble enough, brave enough, vulnerable enough to ask for help? Are you brave enough and courageous enough to go help other people? You know, we can't be givers if we don't have receivers. This is a reciprocal universe. And so we all do our part in that, but it calls upon us to step out sometimes, out of our fear, out of isolation, and those kinds of things. Again, the universe is powerful. The energy in a hurricane is powerful. You, as Jennifer read, are powerful. You are one with that. You have that power within you. And so it behooves not only you, but all of us for us to pay attention to how we are using that energy. How are you using this energy? Because it's vibrant right now. It's powerful right now. And we have the potential to hurt, or we have the potential to help, to heal. We have the potential, a great potential right now to heal. In Prentice Hempfield's book, What It Takes to Heal, How Transforming Ourselves Can Change the World, they write, this book is loaded, but a couple gems I pulled out. This first one here, we are most powerful when sourcing our energy from possibility, from our visions, not from the pain that we know, but from the world just outside of what we see now. Our energy is most potent when we make room for our grief and our anger, when we allow ourselves to feel and our direction becomes clearer. I know that is so true. They go on to say, most of the time, we come to the work of making the world anew because of the pain this one has caused. Our wounds can give us the initial surge to fight back, though this energy is fueled by our most frightened, defended, and adrenalized self. And ultimately, they write, it's not sustainable. The wound grows even as we use it, eating away at the person. This is so wise because we really are in a powerful, powerful position right now, I believe. Let's think about our CSL core values, peace, love, community, all of that. We're a collective of people, and yet we have individual wounds. Just like I said a minute ago, we have individual experiences. We must take responsibility for our healing by helping each other, by asking for help, by having patience and understanding. This is a place of healing. Our community, it is a place of healing. You, as I said a while ago, you have 3 ministers. We will introduce you in person to Reverend Diana Escobar next week. We have Reverend Emile Gavreau, myself, and all our practitioners. I think there's 13 of us now. You may need to do forgiveness work. We can do that with you. Communication is going to be real important for us, to stay in contact with each other, to continue to be truthful, direct, vulnerable, courageous. All those are necessary for us to heal. We recently had a situation in our community, and what I'm going to invite people to do is to go to the person that you have an issue with directly. Speak clearly, truthfully, directly. To speak your truth, to listen to somebody else's truth. Gossip is unconstrained, unconscious, unfiltered kind of conversation, and it's usually not true. It's usually not true. So what I want to say is, if you want me to know something, if you want me to be involved in something in your life, in your personal experience, if you want me and our CSLCC storm cleanup crew, if you want our help, please ask. Please let me know. I just don't know things that I don't know, right? I don't know many things that you might assume I know about you personally. So this is a personal plea right now for you to reach out to me. Yeah, my phone number, it's on my personal cell phone is on all our information. It's on our website. It's on this email. It's on these slides that start and end this video. There's many layers to all this, right? Many layers to all of this. I want to read you one final quote. We're going to send away with this one. Prentice Hemphill says, every place of contact or relationship bears potential pain, and our strategy can become too protective rather than tapping into the prospective. I want you to remember that in this community. I invite you to let down those walls of protection and invite us in, invite each other in. That to me is the real beloved community. That is the intention that we have here for CSLCC. To be that for one another, to hold somebody's hand when they're terrified, to pray together and know truth as we did at each home that we went to yesterday and the day before. Yeah, if you want help, give us a call. This is how Emily is going to say all of that in her song Unbound.
This next song's another song that I wrote. This one's called Unbound, and it's about how nothing ever really dies. It just takes a new form, and how we're all connected. So you should never really feel alone, because there's so many of us and we're all connected to each other. So here's Unbound. Mighty oceans in the air, a fallen tree, its dust flies everywhere. Nothing's bound. Birds soar 'cause they are free, losing feathers in the breeze. We love all that we need, and yet everything will leave. We hold on screaming loud, afraid to be unbound. But we have just begun to let ourselves enjoy this rush. Pieces will break from all of us, but when we find that we're combined, we won't feel left behind. to green, and ash was once a part of all we see. It moves around. A tired man lays down to sleep. It's the end of his journey. We close our eyes to what this means, afraid of what we see, saying hold on, screaming loud, afraid to be unbound. But we have just begun to let ourselves enjoy this rush. Pieces will break from all of us, but when we find that we're combined, we won't feel left behind. Whoa, behind. Whoa. Tell your story and write it down for a child. We are living memories, fighting for survival. We have just begun. We have just begun to let ourselves enjoy this rush. And when we find that we're combined, we won't feel left behind.
Won't be left behind. None of us will be. So it's our time of giving now. And if you would like to specifically give so that the money goes to hurricane relief, we established a fund last month, the board did, called We Are One Fund. And you can either make a notation, We Are One, or hurricane relief. We will make sure that that money is earmarked to go out into our community to help people in need. Last week, I just said to Bobby and Jennifer how surreal this is, that it was just last Sunday that Bobby and I left after the service and went and saw two families that had suffered damage, a lot of damage, from Helene, and handed out gift cards or cash money to people that were in need. So that came from that source. So if you'd like to donate to that, please by all means do. If this is just your regular giving to the center, then no additional notation needs to be made. It's all hopefully running across your screen right now, the ways to give, and it's also repeated on the final slide. So Bobby, come in, let's sing. We all know our offering songs, so let's really sing this in a way this morning that we feel it deeply.
I receive the gift of life and pass it on. I receive the gift of love and pass it on. I receive the gift of joy and pass it on. I receive all good and pass it on. I receive the gift of life and pass it on. I receive the gift of love and pass it on. I receive the gift of joy and pass it on. I receive all good and pass it on.
Thank you, Bobby. And our announcements this morning. We'll have a time of Zoom connection so that we can talk with one another, share our experience, join us in community. That Zoom link was in the comments of today's Facebook post that shows the service. It was also sent out by email. We hope to see you. If you'd like to join our Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast storm cleanup crew that has been out with rakes and gloves and prayer and support, please let us know. Email Reverend Theresa, reply to one of the emails that you've received. We would love to have you. And do let us know if you need anything. We're here to be one family, and we want to support one another. Keep an eye on our newsletter for any more announcements, and know that we believe in the power of prayer and invite you to share your prayer requests at prayer@cslculturalcoast.org. And now our closing song.
This last song is another song I wrote called Once We've Built This House, and it's a song of hope. It's about how sometimes in life your world gets completely knocked upside down and things are taken from you and you suffer a bunch of loss, and it can feel like your emotional house is just destroyed and you don't really recognize who you are anymore. And all you can do then is just start over and start building a new house. And sometimes in life, I've noticed when I've experienced the most destruction, when my life has completely been turned upside down, those times have been the most transformative for me. And sometimes with every ending, there's a new beginning. And sometimes you don't realize what's happening until after the fact. And you say, oh, okay, well, I guess if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have had this. So yeah, that's what this is about. Here's Once We've Built This House. Here it is as I knew it would be. Here you are as I saw you in a dream. These walls that are shaking gave me my whole life. This floor, it is moving beyond me, out of sight. And once we've built this house, we will never look back. And once we've climbed our reach, we will look to the sky and give our whole lives to what once was nothing. We'll give our whole lives to what once was nothing. Castles are made just to only fall at our feet. These rooms, they are changing, and I am not as complete. You were the one who would crawl to me on your knees, and she was the one who I always thought I'd see. sky and give our whole lives to what once was nothing. We'll give our whole lives to what once was nothing. Hope, give me hope, give me hope. It'll hope, hope, give me hope, give me hope. It'll hope. Once we've built this house, we will never look back. And once we've climbed our reach, we will look to that sky and give our whole lives to what once was nothing. Yeah. We'll give our whole lives to what once was nothing.